The casket was already being lowered. The millionaire stood there in silence, sunglasses hiding tears. Suddenly, a 12-year-old black boy ran toward the grave, yelling, "Stop! Don't bury her! She's alive!" Everyone froze. The priest dropped his Bible. Security tackled the boy. But when the grieving husband looked closer, he saw something that made his legs buckle. What this boy said next didn't just save a life. It exposed a secret no one was ever supposed to know. It was a bright California afternoon, the kind of day that didn't match the mood of the people gathered around the grave. The wind moved through the trees softly, brushing over a sea of black suits and designer sunglasses. The man standing at the edge of the grave looked like he belonged in a Fortune 500 magazine. His name was Preston Harwood, and he had built a billion-dollar real estate empire from scratch. But today, the mighty looked hollow. Preston's hand trembled as he reached into his pocket, clutching the wedding band he had removed from his wife's cold finger just days before. Her name was Elaine, his world, his muse, the only one who had seen him before the money. She had collapsed suddenly at home. The doctors said it was a rare brain aneurysm. No signs, no second chance. Now he was bearing the love of his life. The priest began to read final rites, his voice echoing against the gravestones. Preston nodded numbly. Two grave workers began lowering the casket. And then, "Stop! Don't bury her! She's alive!" The voice cut through the air like a gunshot. Every head turned. Preston blinked through his grief. A boy, barely 12, was sprinting toward them, arms waving, his small frame darting between the mourners like a deer through traffic. Security guards jumped forward. One tackled him to the ground. Muffled cries followed. Preston walked over slowly, as if his legs didn't believe what he was seeing. The boy's voice cracked as he pleaded, "Please, sir, I saw her finger move. I swear, don't put her in there. You gotta check again." Everyone around scoffed. A woman whispered, "That poor kid's probably off his meds." Another muttered, "Where's his mother?" But something in the boy's voice wasn't hysteria. It was desperate, raw, real. "Let him go," Preston ordered. The security guard hesitated. "Sir, he interrupted a funeral." "I said let him go," Preston shouted, louder than he'd ever yelled since childhood. The boy stood, his knees bruised, his eyes wide with urgency. "Sir, I live behind the cemetery. I saw her hand twitch through the viewing window in the chapel earlier today. I thought maybe it was the wind, but then her lips, she moved them. Please, please don't bury her." Preston looked at him as if seeing something familiar. Not his face, but the fear, the way someone looks when the world is falling apart and no one believes them. "Open the casket," Preston said. Gasps rippled across the crowd. "Sir, with all due respect," the funeral director began, his voice high with panic. "I'll bury you in it if you argue again," Preston hissed, suddenly a man possessed. With trembling hands, the crew pulled the casket back up and unclipped the lid. What they saw next made time stop. Elaine's eyelids fluttered. Faint, yes, but unmistakable. The priest dropped his Bible. Someone screamed. Another fainted. Preston collapsed to his knees, choking on disbelief. Elaine's chest rose slightly. Her lips parted, a whisper escaping like wind through trees. She was alive." 30 minutes later. Hospital ICU. Preston paced the hospital hallway like a caged lion. His mind refused to catch up to reality. She had no pulse," he told Dr. Sharma for the 5th time. "She was declared dead by 2 doctors. Dr. Sharma adjusted his glasses, speaking gently. "Mr. Harwood, in rare cases, a condition called locked-in syndrome can mimic death. Minimal brain activity, shallow breath, unreadable pulse. She likely regained control recently. But if that boy hadn't spoken up..." His voice trailed off. Preston turned toward the window of the ICU room. Elaine lay on the bed, alive, weak but breathing. A miracle. But his eyes soon drifted back to the hallway, to the boy sitting quietly on a bench, kicking his torn sneakers together. His hoodie was 2 sizes too big. A plastic grocery bag sat beside him, his only belongings. Preston walked over slowly. "What's your name, son?" "Jordan," the boy replied softly. "Jordan Bell." You saved my wife's life today, Jordan. I, I just told the truth. No one else saw what you saw. Jordan looked up, his eyes serious beyond his years. People don't look unless they want to see. That line punched through Preston's chest like truth wrapped in steel. 3 hours later, back of the limo, Jordan sat quietly, staring out the tinted window of the millionaire's black stretch limo. I told them I live behind the cemetery, he said finally, but that's not exactly true. I live in the cemetery. Preston blinked. What do you mean? Jordan reached into his bag and pulled out a small flashlight. I stay in the old gardener's shed. It's abandoned. Got a little cot and everything. Not legal, but it's warm. Preston looked at him, stunned. Where are your parents? Jordan didn't answer right away. My mom died last year. Overdose. Dad's locked up. I got no family, just me. I collect cans, do little jobs. Keep moving. There was no anger in his voice, just facts, as if he had recited them many times. Preston looked away, emotions swirling in his throat. This boy, this homeless kid, had seen what trained professionals missed, had spoken when adults stayed silent, had saved his wife's life when everyone else stood still. I want to do something for you, Preston finally said. Whatever you want. A home, a scholarship, name it. Jordan hesitated. I don't want charity. Preston smiled. Then don't take charity. Take a job. Jordan frowned. A job? Yeah, Preston said. Live-in chess tutor for my daughter. Room, food, schooling. You're clearly sharp. That line you said about truth, that wasn't just smart. That was rare. Jordan cracked a small smile. I don't really know chess. Then we'll both learn, Preston replied. You saved my family. Now let me save yours. But just as everything was looking up, that night while Jordan lay in a warm bed for the first time in years, and Preston held Elaine's hand, silently thanking fate, a private investigator knocked on Preston's office door with an envelope. Sir, he said, there's something about that boy you need to know. Something that doesn't make sense. Preston opened the file and froze. In his hands were hospital records, photos, and something that made his breath catch. According to these documents, Jordan Bell should have died 5 years ago. Preston Harwood stared at the file like it might explode in his hands. The private investigator, Thomas Griggs, leaned forward, lowering his voice. I double-checked the hospital records myself. That boy, Jordan Bell, was admitted to Westside Medical 5 years ago, after a car crash. His mother didn't make it, and neither did he, according to the official death certificate. Preston flipped through the contents. A black and white photo of a small boy. Jordan's face, no question. Same eyes, same little scar above his eyebrow. Wait, Preston said, his voice low. Are you saying the kid I brought into my house is a ghost? Griggs shook his head. Not a ghost, sir, but something's not right. Someone faked his death. Either it was an error, or someone wanted that boy to disappear. Preston sat back in his leather chair, mind reeling. Just that morning, Jordan had saved Elaine's life. Now this? Griggs handed him one more photo. Sir, take a closer look at who signed the boy's death certificate. Preston scanned the document. Dr. Andrew Voss. His blood ran cold. That name wasn't just familiar. It was personal. Dr. Voss had once been the head of neurology at Preston's private hospital. A brilliant man, but fired 2 years ago for malpractice and illegal prescription fraud. But what did Voss have to do with a homeless boy being declared dead? Something didn't add up. Later that night, Harwood Mansion. Guest wing Jordan had never felt sheets so soft. His whole body sank into the memory foam mattress, like it belonged to someone else. He stared at the ceiling fan, spinning slowly overhead, letting the silence fill him. Suddenly the door creaked open. Preston stepped in quietly and sat on the edge of the bed. Jordan sat up, instantly alert. I didn't mean to wake you, Preston said. You didn't, Jordan replied. Rich people don't sleep? Preston cracked a smile. Not when their life just turned into a mystery novel. Jordan blinked. Is it about your wife? Preston shook his head. It's about you. Jordan's face fell. I knew it, he whispered. You found out I don't have paperwork. I lied about my name, right? Or my age. No, Jordan, it's deeper than that. Preston opened the file and handed it over gently. According to this, you're supposed to be dead. Jordan looked at the papers, confused. That's not possible. You were in a car crash with your mother the same night she died. Jordan's mouth opened, then closed again. He searched his memory, the trauma coming back in flashes. A scream, broken glass, sirens, then darkness. I remember the crash, he finally said. I remember waking up in the hospital, but they moved me to a different place the next day. A weird one. Not a real hospital, just a small clinic. The people there were cold, quiet. Preston leaned forward. Do you remember the name of the doctor who moved you? Jordan closed his eyes. V. something. Voss, maybe? He said my mom didn't make it. Told me I'd be better off starting over. I didn't know what he meant. Then one day he just left me on a bench outside a train station. Preston's heart clenched. Jordan, I think doctor, Voss faked your death, but I don't know why yet. The next morning, private security footage room. The night air bit against Jordan's skin as he ran. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to get away. Away from the mansion, away from Preston, away from the man who had told him he'd be safe, only to find out his name was on the files that ruined his life. The streets blurred as he darted through alleyways and vacant lots. The city lights faded behind him. 2 days later, local church shelter Jordan hadn't slept. The small cot beneath him offered no peace. Not after what he'd seen, what he'd heard. His mind circled the same question. Had Preston known all along? He didn't seem like the others. He didn't treat Jordan like a number. But that folder, his name was on the grant that funded the experiment. Harwood Life Tech Initiative. Bold letters. So either Preston was lying, or he had turned a blind eye. But Jordan hadn't come this far just to vanish again. He pulled the flash drive he'd taken from Voss's lab out of his sock, still wrapped in duct tape. Every file, every photo, every child's name. And he made a decision. That night, local news station, Channel 6. I want to speak to someone who can get this on air, Jordan said to the receptionist. She frowned. Do you have a guardian with you? Number. But I have something that could save kids' lives. He dropped the flash drive on the counter. 2 hours later, Jordan sat nervously under the studio lights, next to a local journalist named Grace Monroe. She was tough, sharp, and could see truth in a person's eyes better than most. Jordan Bell, she said, tell us your story. And he did, live, to all of Los Angeles, and soon the world. He spoke of the car crash, the fake death certificate, the laboratory, the medicine, the testing, the graveyard, and finally of Preston Harwood, the man who took him in and whose name was on the very paper that led to his hell. Meanwhile, Harwood Mansion. The footage hit Preston's phone in seconds. Boy exposes underground child testing ring, the headline screamed. He watched, breath caught in his throat, as Jordan's face appeared on screen. Calm, firm, heartbreakingly young. He was the only one who looked at me like I mattered, Jordan said to the camera. But now I don't know who he really is. Elaine now recovered enough to sit up, watch from the couch. He deserves the truth, she said softly, and so do you. The next morning, federal courthouse. It spread like wildfire. The FBI raided abandoned clinics across the West Coast. Arrests were made. Dr. Voss was captured while attempting to flee at LAX with a fake passport. Multiple doctors, drug suppliers, and corporate heads were exposed. And the grant? The Harwood Life Tech Initiative? It had been legally attached to Preston Harwood's empire, but funneled through third-party biotech firms he had never authorized. On paper, he was guilty, but in his soul, he wasn't done fighting.